as I said, we will continue to discuss the tool to monitor our progress. We will continue to strengthen the international collaboration and cooperation, okay? Because we see that this is a very active movement now, actually, in every continent. So I think we can continue to have the shared activities, and we would like to recruit more hospital members into this theme, and to now we have joined the Global Green and Healthy Hospital Network, okay? And we will continue to have more activities in addition to climate-friendly activities, okay, such as harm reduction of chemicals. Okay, that's my introduction. Thank you. And next, I will hand the microphone to Panda.
Thank you, Dr. Chu. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here this morning. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Dr. Chu. So I'll be talking about the role of the healthcare sector in addressing climate change, given the current science and political agreement. I'll give a brief introduction. Sorry about that. Okay, introduction, and talk a bit about what the current science is saying, what the current political agreement is all about, and the role of the healthcare sector, and end with some key messages. I don't know if you can see me at the back, or should I stand? Okay, so Healthcare Without Harm, we've heard already, is an international coalition of over 480 organizations in 53 countries. And the main objective is to make the healthcare sector, is to transform it so that it's no longer a harm to humans and to the environment. And some of the work of the Healthcare Without Harm was discussed yesterday, includes elimination of mercury, PVC from healthcare, finding alternatives to incineration, working on green procurement, climate change, etc. And please do visit our website, that's www.noharm.org. Now, what does the science say? Well, the IPCC, International Panel on Climate Change, fourth assessment report in 2007, said that climate change is definitely happening. Latest findings simply show that this finding still stands, and it's been supported by numerous studies and publications, some of which you know already. You know about the Lancet report calling climate change the biggest threat of the 21st, I keep on saying 21st century, with impacts on human health, including changes in vector-borne diseases, extreme weather events, and some of the ones that you see here, drought, desertification, famine, and reductions in food production. Another scientific publication that was done by the lead scientist of the IPCC report is this one, the Copenhagen Diagnosis Report. And this collects all the latest findings from between 2007 and 2009. It was created for the International Conference on Climate Change in Copenhagen. And the main finding for us was significant is that, again, it shows that between, in 2008, fossil fuel emissions rose by 40% compared to 1990 levels. And the problem with that is that if we carry on doing what we're doing, we're going to exceed the 2 degrees Celsius temperature rise. If we pass that level, we might come up, we might have what we call dangerous climate change, whereby life on Earth will not be the same as we know it anymore. Another latest scientific publication was commissioned by the United Nations Environment Programme. It's called the Emissions Gap Report, which was looking at the gap between the science, 2007 IPCC, and the reality. So this is what the governments agreed they would do in Copenhagen to reduce climate change, to keep it to below 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees Celsius. And as you can see, the report found that we have a huge gap of 5 gigatons of CO2 equivalent in 2020 if we carried on according to what we agreed on in Copenhagen. So these are the pledges by international governments. And that's the bad news. The good news is that we might just be able to keep the temperature to below 2 degrees Celsius through more ambitious domestic actions. And this is very relevant for the healthcare sector. Now, the latest publication from the OECD Group of Developed Countries, the Environment Outlook to 2050, published in February of this year, was looking at 4 key areas and showed trends in socioeconomic trends in 4 key areas: climate change, biodiversity, water, and health impacts of environmental pollution. And what they found was that air pollution is said to become the largest environmental cause of mortality by 2050 if we carry on business as usual, leading to premature deaths caused by respiratory failure. That means that we're going to double the deaths caused by respiratory failure in 2050. Now, another finding is that we're going to have a higher burden of disease from exposure to hazardous chemicals, loss of biodiversity, loss of water quality and quantity, just among other things, and a possible increase in greenhouse gas emissions of 50% due to demand in energy use. And again, before Durban climate change meeting, the United Nations Development Programme came up with this Human Development Report, which clearly points out that health and income development in the so-called developing countries are hindered by inaction to climate change and environmental degradation. So basically what we need is urgent action now, not only for the benefits of health and humans, but also for our economy. Now, what do the politics say? The main, or the latest climate change meeting, the International Climate Change meeting in Durban. These are the main issues that we agreed on. Dr. Chu introduced this meeting and said what we did there. And the main things agreed on there are that governments, there are 192 governments represented, agreed to come up with an international legal agreement before 2015 and agreed to continue a second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol from next year. What's significant about the Kyoto Protocol is that it's the only legally binding international agreement to reduce greenhouse gases. And they agreed to come up with quantified emission reduction targets. So this is an improvement. They agreed to improve on the Copenhagen pledges that we saw still have, there is a gap to breach that. So issue for us is that this year, as you are all probably aware, has been declared the year of sustainable energy for all by the United Nations. And in its resolution at the General Assembly, all actors around the world to use this opportunity to increase awareness and to move towards energy efficiency, sustainable energy use in order to achieve the millennium. So this is somehow very much in line with what we're trying to promote here, or we're trying to achieve. Sustainable Development Meeting, the Rio Plus 20, taking part in June 4th to 6th this year, or 4th to 9th. And this year it focuses, WHO has also contributed, the document is there, health and the green economy. And they highlight a number of ways that health can contribute and can benefit from sustainable development, has positive benefits for health, and a healthier environment leads to sustainable development, and that by using, and then we also have a long-term target of 8 reductions of greenhouse gases from 800 of the low power intensity roadmap and energy efficiency directive are being discussed right now. And I'm sure
are aware that personal commitment, and then about organisation commitment. But they're quite, so, and as Esther says, we would welcome translations of them, and they are included on the website, so you can see some translations. It would be helpful, but we are aware now we started this a while ago, and now we have only a month before we're allowed Tobacco Day, but it would be good even afterwards, because we think these are two useful tools that could be used, and maybe even feedback on them, because I think we have already had feedback that before the task force finishes, that maybe there's a need to simplify them, make them a little bit shorter, so we would welcome that feedback as well, because we see them as long-term tools that could be used.
I would ask whether you accept previously signed charter cards.
The big thing we would say is that if you can put the signatures in, and if you have an email contact for that person, just to get permission that they will allow their name to go with the petition.
There is a tick.
Yes, yes.
If they haven't ticked,
then
could I only give the number or something?
Yeah, yes. You can put it in, but then we can't sign the petition, so they can sign the charter. You have signatures that have signed the charter.
Yes.
So if they have not ticked that they can publish the name, you could just tick, put in the information. Yes, and put them in.
They don't want to be published.
Yes, if they don't want to be published, we would encourage.
If they haven't ticked, they don't want.
They don't want. Yeah. But I think it just also might be useful once you put them in, the names in. Maybe if you have an email address for them, to just email them and say this is where it's put. No, okay, it's all right. It could be that way. If they have given permission, that's okay.
You should suggest if there's internet connection in the computer we are using, perhaps we can show.
This is, we think, is kind of the overview. And if it's translated and put in your email with a link, then I think it gives people a good impression about what it is we're asking them to sign. And if after the pact and after the charter, the here is where they can see the full text. So maybe, Esther, if you can click on one of them. Yeah. So it will go into where the various ones that are there. So if you click on English. So this is what it looks like in English, and then you can see those that have already translated. This came originally from Italy, from the Venetia region. They used, our colleague Simone Tassa, he used it to collect signatures in his region, and then we adopted it. We also had our colleague Krista Rustler was here in Taiwan, and they had the 1 million signature campaign, and we really recognized at that stage that a shorter, smaller version would be much easier for people. So, but we had already committed to start with this, but we have had some feedback that maybe people could use a smaller version, and that would be effective in terms of getting the message across. So if you do that, we will welcome feedback, because as a long-term tool, we think it would be useful. And we are committed to review this before the task force closes next year. And then there will be tools to be used. The pact is, pact, or it's German, put it in German, so because I know we have some German people that speak this.
As my knowledge, we have already have the traditional Chinese version.
Yes.
Yes. So maybe we can ask the association to provide you the traditional Chinese version, and you can put it on here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, perfect.
And
So
it's easier to translate it to simplified Chinese.
That would be lovely. Excellent. Thank you.
And then maybe some people can help for French version, Italian version.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, we are encouraging this. We can't make it where key people have signed. We will like to upload these pictures if you have permission, so we can see in the different countries who have participated who are the key leaders. So we've had the Chief Medical Officer for the Department of Health, he has signed, and also for the Health Service, the CEO of the Health Service Executive has also signed. So for us, are participating to have similar, and Esther will put a gallery of these photographs with time when they come.
Oh, you want to go back?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Just if you scroll down, because it's similar for the pact. And then all we request.
That you will link back to your what website. You know the page. For example, if you go to the American CDC, they create different kind of page, so people can easily.
他写第一面，他签第一次名之后交给我们，我们会去做后续追踪。
Is a major challenge to the occupation health and safety. Also the violence, psychosocial risk, harassment, and bullying. This issue we concerned. Sorry. If these 5 parts occurs to the health provider in our hospital, we concerned their risk problem. So we still concerned that psychosocial health has a negative impact at workplace. So we concern this factor will increase the work esteem and the staff turnover, customer complaint, and decreasing staff job commitment, and the performance and production. So, if it happens in the hospital, we care what we are going on in our hospital. So, now my article is to study the psychosocial risk in the hospital. This is the exam emergency room. There are 2 guys they sent to hospital and they drunk, and someone he destroyed the computer in the emergency room, and the other one is yelling to the physician. So if it happens in the hospital, and how to prevent in the future. So we want to management psychosocial in the hospital some method to prevention. So we developed using the automatic short message service and deliver messages by our health information system automatically. And our member of the team worker, including social worker, security guy, administrative leader, and the community. So some cases happen like the event above. The case we are discussing in committee, and if there is a risk for our hospital or our staff, we will let the case into the case management. So this is our hospital's case and the short message service flow. If the case comes to visit our hospital OPD, outpatient IPD, and the ER room, the system will automatically show an online real time to send a message, show message to our team worker, including security guard, and the administrative leader, and our social worker. And they receive the message, they will go to the ER, IPD or OPD to concern the case. And our social worker will discuss it to our staff and let the staff understand what kind of the case. So this is our system. We will build the case when he visited in emergency. emergency room and the IPD and OPD, we will deliver message to the manager. And this is our sample for some cases. They visit our visit and our hospital, and the staff will get a message. So we developed an automatic system from based on his at 2011 March, and the total high psychosocial hazard. And the event case B, you are the jail now, so we from this system, and after build the system, we want to understand how the feel of the staff. So we have a questionnaire to the staff. This is all the staff question. The question is, they satisfied by this information in the real-time show message service for this case. So totally, especially we care the staff express. And the final question, they agreed of a medical practice witness. So we think in this the shortage of manpower is due to cost patient safety, customer oriented, and the hospital policy must against the violence to pre. So finally, we think this module automatically notifies staff around about special concern case, especially some violent patient.
And colon cancer, or bowel cancer. Breast cancer, the detection is through mammography. We don't promote self-examination anymore. We used to. When I was a younger health educator in the 80s, we talked about self-examination, but because of the evidence, we changed and are only looking at mammography now. In Israel, 67% of the women above the age of 50 are doing regular mammographies. So that's good, but not good enough. We always have to improve. So these clinics that are participating are being judged and being monitored by the amount of women who are members of their clinics who are doing mammography. In Israel, it's in the basket of services from the age of 50 for every 2 years, unless there's family history. Then they start at 40 every year. I know there's a controversy. Some countries start at 40, some start at 50. In Israel, we start at 50. And the other is early detection of colon cancer, which we promote. The first stage is through a fecal, a bowel self-examination. Well, the bowel specimens are sent to a center. And so we started a few years ago with only 14%, we're up to 38%. And I know in America, for example, a colonoscopy is the first line for detection, but in Israel, that's second line. The first is the fecal examination. And it's very tricky because many people don't like to deal with their bowels and deal with feces. But we're doing more and more promotion. Within the module, we have a demonstration of how to do it and how to take it. And they use cream and they rub it, and it's very interactive. And so we try to promote it by making it a normal thing to do. So those are the two cancers that we early detect for: breast cancer and colon cancer. And we decided to focus on those. But we also have, within that, it's not just what to do, it's how to teach and how to motivate your patient. So you talk about how to have self-efficacy, how to empathize. If people resist because they're scared to get the answer about cancer. So how to say, actually, you can relax once you know the answer. Or the treatment is expensive, and if they detect it, I won't have money. Well, it's not expensive. You're entitled. You have a right to it. And another, this is connecting your two questions, is that in Israel, 50% of the people who do the fecal test and are tested positive don't go on to do the colonoscopy. They stop. So we want to encourage them to do the second stage. Also, many women will do one mammography, and then 2 years later, they won't do a second one. They won't remember that they have to do it, or they said they've already done it. So we want to have the continuity as well. So this is looking at long term.
Thank you. In Taiwan, usually the first day, if the maintain their healthy lifestyle, they can teach the people to do it. And from your study, I've seen the evaluation. Most of the items you use the self-report, right? Because do they have meet their expectation, their satisfaction? And do you think in the future, when you use the indicators, for instance, the staff, they are maybe overweight, and then you would like to use the indicator of how many pounds or kilogram decreased to measure exactly the efficacy or the effectiveness,
Yes.
and as well as the smoking.
Yeah. Okay, this is very pharmacists, dietitians in our institution that were very methodologically sampled so that we would get a very representative sample. Because we wanted to know how we're doing. 13% of the doctors were smoking, and the pharmacists maybe 6%. But we also look at the drivers and people who are working on logistics, and there were 40% smoking. So we wanted to also look at the physical activity self-reported. So you might say, okay, what are the ethics of that? So we wanted to have it self-reported so that they wouldn't feel as though it's like the big brother as the employer, that we're measuring your healthy lifestyle as a worker. We were concerned that we would have resistance. So we asked them. Also, asking is intervention, isn't it? When we all do an evaluation and when we don't do a pre-test, we're already about that is that there's questions that come up in this program, and they're wonderful discussions, where people will say, well, if I'm still smoking, can I recommend that my pathology would have an obligation to? You also should stop smoking.
你在那个就是要报的那个会场外面，会这样。
of the inclusion criteria is there, and after and post experiment is only of the 133 staff of the inclusion and the quality.
In our study, in our experience, we know always usually the case dropout is the case more serious to be case, as we know in the past experience, right? So do you analyze the cases dropout? Their BMI or their body weight is more, and I mean worse than the participant group, right? No. You compare these two groups?
We not calculate the 45 step of the dropout for the weight of BMI. We not calculate it.
Maybe you can try to reanalyze your data. Maybe some interesting result will be fine.
And my additional opinion of this, our study is why we said that exercise is the only support. We only suggest and we not check any the exercise intensity. What we think is the diet control is the much improved is the after our canteen supported low fat lunchbox and after the low fat meal area, most of the hospital staff participate and need to be made the more lunchbox during this duration, and still our hospitals canteen still support up to now. And many of our hospital staff want to use this low fat lunchbox. And we think is that maybe the one of the support is the diet control. But we cannot conclude of our study is the only of the diet control. Maybe the exercise is a part. Thank you.
Because the third speaker can do it.
So for example, how many percent of the patient need this kind of counseling or this kind of help to help them to overcome this their, for example, low self-esteem of their emotional disturbance and so on.
In fact, in order to make sure that their health could handle the pressure and ready to return to work, oral cancer survivors in Taiwan undergo about 2 years rehabilitation before returning to work. So, according to our empirical experience, there's about over 50% of our clients need to be re-employed because their age are at about 30 to 49 years old and they need to return to work.
And why?
She wants to know that do you provide any psychological counseling for those survivors?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Okay.
So the main issue is that they have to overcome their facial disfigurement, especially eating outside. So we do have the psychological counselor to provide the service. Yes.
About how many percent of patients need this kind of counseling?
How many percent?
How many percent?
多少人需要这种心理咨商？
I think that maybe during the treatment or our service, everyone should have because his face is half gone.
And can receive this kind of help. It is available for everyone.
Kind of. So we have the volunteers share their own experience to others couldn't handle the psychological issue.
Okay,
thank you.
For the Cancer Foundation, and we offer a lot of services for the cancer survivors. And the question is about the breast cancer survivor. I think the most bothering problem for the breast cancer survivors after mastectomy is the liver edema. So I think from the study, the group physical therapy, and your study shows that the results is significantly reduce the pain, shoulder pain, not for edema. So I want to ask the presenter from the physical therapy perspective, do you have any recommendation on exercise in the beginning or after mastectomy that can help the breast cancer survivors to reduce the lymphedema? Because the edema always prolong a longer time to interfere patients, not only the shoulder function, even their emotion. So do you have any recommendation on this part? Thank you.
因为它那个水肿的情形，可能在初期还不会马上就有出现，那可能是到后期才慢慢出现。那我们这些 exercise 的 intervention， 可能在开始对于它的 pain 马上出现的 pain， 或者是先处理，那或者是说它的 ROM 受到限制先处理。那关于 edema 的话，那可能它出现的时候，我们有特别的 exercise 并没有。对，那关于 edema 的部分，可能还会有借由一些的 modality 的一个治疗，例如说 compression 的方式。
She said that after the give them exercise for the shoulders and also to reduce the pain. And when the edema comes out, then they have another intervention to
reduce the edema. Okay.
So, do you have any exercise to
Before the edema
before
happens.
the edema comes, then do you have
最早期的时候就先做完
怎么样就可以
的建议。
去做什么来预防后来才发生？
Do you consider this? Edema prevention, not prevention, reduction. No? No?
I don't really think so. Sorry, I'm from Singapore, important for lymphedema control, because there's other risk factors like, you know, pinprick and the pressure itself, like you have to avoid taking blood pressures and things like that. So, and for other preventions like compression bandage, they refer. So I think some of them has like prevent like, but not the lymphedema.
Okay, I understand. Then she suggests that not only exercise but also education. Okay, I think that's time, and we have lunchtime, right? So there's still one. Okay, this is the last one. Okay.
Write down the letter to the Ministry of Health. To the Ministry of Health, and then we did all the things that we could, and then we waited for 3 months, and then we couldn't get any response. And this area is located close to the campus, and then we work at the Faculty of Psychology at the university, and then we have previous collaboration regarding the mental health services provided by the Puskesmas, by the primary health care. So we went there. So we didn't choose it. It's like something that we have to compromise with.
Thank you. Yes, please. And then the gentleman over there, and then Dr. Lee.
Although I don't have voice, but I still find this topic very interesting, and I have one comment. You can see in your study, the women who has PPD feel moody and they don't want to take care of their babies. So I found that father's involvement is very important. It cannot be ignored. But you can see, you check a lot of helping hand from the father. You can say, check the baby health status card, my age appropriate toys for baby. But the problem is not a baby. The problem is for the family, not necessarily for the women. So you can see those women who has PPD is median, finish high school, or they are very young adolescent. So I suggest one more indicator you might try. What you might try is not only by age appropriate toy for the baby, but also by age appropriate gift for the mother. Okay, you can see those young, maybe 18 or 14 years, young mothers, they still feel fancy. So maybe the women who has PPD, those young women, they feel like their husband or young husband don't care about her, not their baby. Thank you.
Prevention of mental disorders, and from the Netherlands. I'm very impressed by your presentation, and I'm very happy that you are stressing so much the importance of preventing also depression very early in life, because we do know that depression in mothers have a very, very long-term impact on the brain of the child and on the development and attachment and the risk of later mental problems in the children. I just want to expand a little bit on what could be done in terms of prevention. And I only want to point at two prevention programs, one in England. It's my colleague Terry Brugger, who trained district nurses in detecting very early beginning signs of depression, and trained the district nurses also in doing therapy at home. And that resulted in a drop of 30% of the incidence of depression in mothers. But it's, I think, a very helpful way of preventing. The other example is from the United States. David Oles did a preventive intervention with also low-income mothers, pregnant mothers, and with home visitation. And he followed all those mothers for 15 years. And there were tremendous impact 15 years later that the babies, then teenagers, had much lower alcohol problems, problems with justice. So I think it's very powerful and very important to give attention to this problem that you so well described. Thank you very much.
Like a community service plan for this population, that we try to give them the postpartum depression scale, which is only a provider who works at the primary health care. They are many of them are not sure about their capacity to assess mental health problems. So this is like they can use, and then at the same time, of course, they may have a bigger opportunity to do this examination for the mothers.
How these people in the low income deal with the BPD? Yeah, it must be some local wisdom over there. How they deal it? I mean,
we did ask actually, because we spent like 2 months collecting the data. We met the to bring their baby every month anyway for the immunization, and then we asked them if you feel not well, if you are feeling like lazy, if you are depressed, of course in the local term, and then what would you do? Actually, quite nothing. It's just like another day. So if I'm looking for local wisdom, what I found is actually that when you have a baby, you are supposed to be happy, you are expected to be otherwise than that, then deal with it yourself. And it's not a very promising local wisdom in this community, but that's what I found at least.
Okay, we will close the session now, and thank you very much for participating. Thank you.
But for everybody else, you know better than anybody else sitting in Geneva or in Reggio or anywhere else in the world and trying to translate it. So that's the issue on translation. Any other comments to group 2? Okay, then we have group 3. And group 3 was discussing quality of care. So would you like to come up and make a presentation?
Thank you. I think everybody are hungry. And our member have a very very good discussion. If I cannot express very good, it maybe due to my poor English. Okay, the first one, the substandard 3, the standard 3, the substandard 3.1. The organization ensures that individual characteristics, experience, and the living condition are considered alongside the assessment of a health need. In Taiwan, in actually all hospitals, during the admission, we collect the individual characteristics, including the smoking and the BMI, and the health healthy, such as the smoking, drinking, bitterness use, but we seldom use the individual characteristic incorporate into our daily assessment of their health promotion need. In Taiwan, except for some very few hospitals, such as the Tzu Chi Dalin Yiyuan or the Tai'an Yuan, which can incorporate the characteristic into their assessment about the health promotion need. In our hospital, last year we joined the HPH Advanced Certificate Program, randomized control trial study. So we used the orthopedic department using a standard word. We began to collect patient individual characteristic and to assessment which people need the smoking cessation and which people need the body weight reducing program. Then we introduced the patient to the individual health promotion. Yeah, we think this is a beginning step, but further how to organize the individual's characteristic into our daily care still have a long way to go. The second, the organization workforce is able to deliver care that take into account the individual patient idea and experience of health and illness. In clinical, we provide the many people about the alternative choice about the treatment, about the surgical or non-surgical or medical care, and chemotherapy or non-chemotherapy. But we think that the information is not so equally. Sometimes I'm a physician, but I provide the patient information according to the evidence-based medicine. But the evidence is not so. We always use the relative risk instead of the absolute risk to provide some information to provide the information to the patient. But the patient misunderstanding our meaning. For example, the 20% versus 10%. A relative risk is 2, but also 2. So when we speak, you have a 4-fold if you choose the surgical intervention benefit. The patient say, hey, the 4-fold is very good. But the patient did not choose my suggestion. And the third, the organization is able to create an environment and treat denial of individual identity. We provide many patients during patient admission. We ask all patients to sign the paper. You will write to privacy as well, or other patient right to privacy, and so on. But the sign is the only sign, not the soul is the only. And the last, the organization take into account the individual patient characteristic, experience, and the living condition to ensure effective discharge.
We have contact with 61 hospitals, and we have sent out 56 questionnaires. We have received 8 which have gone through the quality assurance, and as it says here, we are still looking for contact persons at hospitals. So if you have a contact with a hospital that has any form of alcohol intervention or related information to that, then please let us know. So this is the first snapshot of the computer system. We see that there are 9 hospitals on the list here, numbered from 1 to 9 from the very left, from Sweden, England, Ireland, Norway, Australia, Finland, Norway again, and the USA. And the name of the town and the name of the hospital. So, and we see the column with where it says screening. It says yes or no if there is screening. So not all of the hospitals have screening. In the next column, interventions, you see the number of interventions each hospital has. So actually, in Ireland, Dublin, they have 5 kinds of interventions. The next column is, we have two kinds of questionnaires. One is where you don't have to answer all the questions, because some hospitals, they're not able to answer all the questions, so we let it stand open. Otherwise, you have to answer all the questions. And the final column here is the number of attachments. The way we do this is we send out this questionnaire on an email, and we ask the hospitals to fill out this questionnaire, but if they have any additional information in any form, a Word file, a PDF file or something, then they attach that when they send the questionnaire back to us. And when we get the questionnaire back to us, after it's gone through quality assurance, we program their attachment into the system, and I'll demonstrate this as we go along. So, at the bottom right-hand corner of every dialog window, there are 3 icons. The first one with an arrow looks like a compass. That's to tell you where you are in the questionnaire, because it's quite, as I say, it's quite extensive, and you might not be quite sure where you are. So this is going to be a guide for you to know where you are. The next icon is a notepad. What should I say? We're leaving this open for things you may have forgotten. So if you have other information that is not included in the questionnaire, then you have the opportunity to write comments or things that, or even things that you think should be done differently. We're open for suggestions while we're working with this. And the final icon to the extreme right is an email address and a mobile phone number. So you can phone us straight away. My phone number, Jan Tore's phone number, Tina's phone number. So if you're stuck, you just phone us. So I just want to show you the flow chart for this questionnaire. We start, as I mentioned, with the HPH standard with hospital information. We go on to management policy, and then we go further on to screening assessment, then to this intervention. And in intervention, there can be, for lack of a better name, we call it intervention events. You may want to call it something else, steps or whatever. But as I'll show you on the snapshots, you'll get an idea of what we're talking about. So intervention events, and there can be several intervention events in an intervention. When we've finished with the intervention events, then we ask about the continuity of the intervention, what happens afterwards. And then we ask if there are several interventions, because as we saw in Ireland, they had actually 5 interventions. So we continue this loop until the hospital has registered all the interventions. And then the continuity of intervention. Then we go, this is actually what we look on as the main part. This has to do with the intervention. But the other information that we need is patient information, staff training, healthy workplace, and monitoring and evaluation, and finally cooperation, collaboration, and network. Now, even although if you're in a hospital that doesn't have intervention, alcohol interventions, then you can use this system if you want to implement alcohol interventions, because you can pick any hospital and you can see what they do, how they do it, and this can give you an idea how you can start with your alcohol interventions. So this questionnaire has 2 purposes at this point in time. The one is to register what you're doing, and the other one is to help you if you want to get started with alcohol interventions. So let's look at there are several pathways here. You may not have screening or assessment, so you go direct from management policy to patient information. So you don't have to go through everything that doesn't apply to you. You only go through what applies to your hospital. On the other hand, you may have screening assessment but no intervention. So you go direct from screening assessment to patient information. The next stage, but they do have interventions. So you can go direct from management policy to intervention, and then continuity of intervention, and then patient information. So there are flow chart here. So let's have a closer look at hospital information. Dialogue window that comes up on your screen. You're asked for which country, town, hospital name, the size of the hospital per year, and then the number of employees, and if you're a member of the HPH network.
National and regional networks as means to further support the dissemination of health promotion in countries and regions. And the work of these networks later on was then based on specific policy documents. One is the Vienna recommendations on health promoting hospitals. And it was further supported by other tools like task forces, which complement networks as such with some specific thematic activities. In the years 2000 and 2006, the network is further developed by using some by the implementation of specific tools, strategies and standards that allow linking health promotion to quality management. In 2005, we saw the first HPH network outside Europe, which is a kind of landmark for the globalization of the network. In 2007, the network opened up to other health services than hospitals. In 2008, the network was established as an international association and became formalized more from an open network to a more formal association. And today, HPH is active in all continents. So now the PRICES study that aims at a kind of retrospective evaluation of the whole thing. Health promoting hospitals aims at better health gain for three distinct types of target groups: patient, staff, and the community. And the idea is that these are achieved by specific strategies that can be performed on the level of hospitals and health services, and that member organizations, that hospitals or other health services need specific structures in place to be able to provide these services. For example, they need a coordinator who has not only a formal role, but really some dedicated working time, resources and teams and so on to support him or her. This is one part of the study to assess whether in fact specific types of structures here on the level of member hospitals can impact on the hospital's ability to provide strategies that can support health. The second part of the study was to look at the network level and to see what kind of structures and resources are in place on the level of the networks, and also which types of interventions are provided by the networks to support their member hospitals in implementing structures and strategies. And on the level of the networks, we can differentiate between 5 types of strategies. Strategy 1 would be to support organizational development of hospitals by providing specific tools, consultations or projects. Strategy 2 would be to support personnel development in member organizations by providing training and tools. Strategy 3 is about supporting health promotion capacity building in relevant environments of the networks by lobbying and alliance building, for example, with health policy. Strategy 4 is about supporting health promotion public awareness of health promoting hospitals. This is all about campaigning and public relations. And strategy 5 is about research and dissemination to support the work in the other strategies. In PRICES HPH, data were collected in the years 2009 and 10. Of the 35 networks that existed at that time, 28 networks participated, which makes 129 member hospitals, And of these, we collected data from 180, which makes a return rate of 34%. The specific questions I would like, whether network resources make a difference and whether network characteristics make a difference, and what we can say. First of all, in order to tackle the question whether whether network strategies make a difference, hospital structures make along our research path a difference on hospital interventions. This is the case. You can hear more about it tomorrow in a keynote by Jürgen Pelikan and also in an afternoon oral session where this topic will be highlighted. On the network level, the first research question was on network strategies and whether these network strategies make a difference on hospital HP performance. And what you see here is two groups of hospitals that are differentiated according to their approach. Of one group with systematic implementation, and we were able to identify criteria, including to have a written policy for health promotion and to have a standard self-assessment according to the criteria Jeff presented first. And also network.
Findings, if we compare between the younger age group, that is 6 to 9 years and 10 to 14 years, the hair science, the findings were significantly higher in case of 6 to 9 year children, especially in hair science, highly significantly higher in hair science, and significantly higher in skin signs of malnutrition, which were more in younger age group. Then coming to vitamin deficiencies, the maximum deficiency was of vitamin B deficiency in these children, followed by vitamin C, and vitamin B deficiency was significantly higher in younger age group, but vitamin C deficiency was higher in the older age group, that is the highly significantly higher in the adolescent age group, 10 to 14 years. Then comparing the same data between male and female children, except the pallor was highly significantly higher in the females. 87% of the females were having pallor as compared to 76% of the males. But rest of the signs like hair signs, skin signs, and vitamin deficiency, there were no significant differences between male and female children. So this already I told. Then nutritional health needs as an integrated parameter was calculated based on all these components which were asked or examined, and then it was found that nutritional health needs were higher in the 6 to 9 years of age group as compared to 10 to 14 years of age group, significantly higher. Then they were higher in the children who had never been to the school as compared to the children who had dropped out of the school, again significantly higher. Then also there were religion differences were also there, like nutritional health needs were higher in Muslim children as compared to the Hindu children, which are the two main religions. Muslim is the second largest after the Hindus. So were significantly higher in the Muslim children, highly significantly higher in the Muslim children. And as expected, the family income was also like higher family income, less nutritional needs or less nutritional problems, and lesser family income, then higher the nutritional needs were there. Then again, this is comparing, the children were divided into three groups. Here we are comparing the three groups based on the level of the education. The children who had not passed any class, or they did not even go to the school, or they went to the school and could not pass even the first class, or the children who had passed between first and third class, and the children who had passed fourth or more class. So if we compare, the differences are highly significant. And it clearly indicates that nutritional health needs are more in the children who who are less educated as compared to the children who are more educated. The same findings were compared depending upon the family size of the household, but significant differences were not observed in on the family size parameter. So, summarizing this, the nutritional status of the educated children was better. Then there is a significant role of the education in improving the nutritional health status, and younger children have poor nutritional status as compared to the older. No significant difference between the nutritional status of working and non-working children, and male and female, except pallor, which was higher in females. Then poor nutritional status in Muslims as compared to Hindu. Then these are the anthropometric examination which was done, weight, height and weight for height. This is the finding of the and comparison with the WHO standards, NCHS standards. So this shows that only 2% of the children had weight equal to or higher than median, and 6% had height equal to or higher than median, and 26% had weight for height equal to or higher than median. And if you see the these parameters below 2 standard deviation, then around 44% of the children, they had weight below 2 standard deviation, that is they had moderate to severe undernutrition. Then for 45% of the children, they had moderate to severe stunting, and then BMI was also calculated, body mass index. As you know that body mass index is a index of chronic energy deficiency states in which were suffering from different grades of chronic energy deficiencies. Only 1%, that is 3 children, were having BMI of 25 or more. And comparison between the groups, the BMI findings shows that it was a highly significant difference between younger age group and the lower age group. Similarly, the children who had never been to school, they had lower BMI, significantly lower, highly significantly lower BMI than those who were school dropouts. And nutritional awareness is giving a higher BMI. Working children are having a higher BMI, and chronic undernutrition was more in. Actually, this child is having angular stomatitis. You can see the child on the left side. You can see on the tongue. The tongue has become is showing glossitis and it has become smooth. And I'll show another child which is showing the hair signs of malnutrition, and they are also showing the flag sign, that which are the which indicate the periods of good.
Mental illness. Here we look the same data: Belgium, Finland, Lithuania, Netherlands, Russia and Slovenia. Simple data. They disagree. Mental patients disagree with this sentence. And here 2 samples of positive data. People with psychiatric experience can be useful for society, and with this everyone agreed in most patients in Belgium, Lithuania, Malta, Netherlands, and Sweden. In Lithuania, data is a little bit better than all the study. I feel I have a number of good qualities. Here, agree, very high percent, so 100% in Netherlands. In Belgium, high percent, in Finland, in Lithuania, in Malta, and less in Israel, in Sweden. Israel is not a European country, but organization is a member, Israel's organization is a member of GANG. And conclusions. Lithuanian society is very intolerant for persons with psychiatric experience. As 4 years ago, the same in last survey. In some cases, responses of the Lithuanian group are not different from patients from other countries. somewhere more pessimistic or more optimistic than average. Distribution of psychiatric diagnoses in Lithuania are different from other countries due to different psychiatric schools. Bipolar affective disorders are more frequently diagnosed overseas, while schizoaffective disorders are diagnosed in Lithuania. In Lithuania, majority of indicators in 2010 are worse than in 2006. This can be explained by the fact that little time has passed to make significant changes in public opinion. Some respondents participated in the survey for the first time in 2010. Higher understanding of patients' rights. Economical crisis may affect negative public opinion, in particular concerning the recruitment of patients. Significantly decreased the rate concerning the danger caused by mentally ill persons. In 2010, 20% of respondents agree that mentally ill people tend to be violent, while in 2006, 26%.
Thank you very much for this very convincing study, which shows that still stigma is a big problem we have with little positive trends. But as what you showed is same like the studies of Angermeyer. They showed that there is no correlation between the service quality and the stigmatization.
It's correlation, but I didn't present here because of the lack of time. But we have rather, I think, I suppose, and you know personally, that we have rather good mental health services in Lithuania. Rather good, but public opinion is so bad.
Yeah. So we are very good in time. Any questions? Yeah, please.
Excuse me, why the name Club 13?
13? Because it was founded near the department number 13. It was mental male psychiatric department, not co-educated, 20 years ago. And after, near this department, we founded club, and its name Club 13 and Company. And company is what people who gather here.
My name is Clemens Hosman. I'm from the Netherlands. I was a little bit shocked about my country, and also I don't recognize it too much, but maybe I have to face reality. But what might be the case is that sometimes, I don't know when this survey has been done, but sometimes there are public persons. So it might be that this kind of events have an impact on surveys, but maybe you have information on that.
I think that it is with all surveys. All surveys are not very concrete and very real. It's accidental. All surveys are accidental. All in one. If you want, I will take you and you will show concrete questions and answers. All your Netherlands answers.
Co-work of the experience of experts as patients on the one side and experts as psychiatrists on the other side, and how it can be a good alliance. I think that will open new doors in psychiatry, and I'm very happy that you are here, and I ask you for the presentation. Please.
Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Mara Monfieni and I represent the Mental Health Department in Trento, Italy. In Trento, we try to apply the Italian community psychiatry with some peculiarity, the doing together, and in particular is the expert users and family members. Italian community psychiatry started with Franco Basaglia law, a very important and well-done Italian psychiatry, the promoter of the law 180. This law closed psychiatry hospitals and moved the treatment of rehabilitation to community services. The Doing Together is the approach of Mental Health Department of Trento. Are all activities, groups, and working area promoted to the MHD of Trento, where users, family members, professionals, and involved equally and work together. Doing Together is a way to put the users at the center of his care pathway. In this slide, we can observe the evolution of Doing Together from 2000 until today. We have the self-help group, a periodic family meeting, and all other activities. We are really happy of this result. In 11 years, more than 1,100 people have been involved. The birth of UFE, the users and family members expert, in participants of Doing Together activities, grow trust, affection to the common home of MHD. From this, the birth of UFE, the most important result of Doing Together. UFE were born from a K through and a combination and integration from knowledge of professional and user and family knowledge. So a good, simple, radical, effective system was born, where professional, users, and family members work together. The key word is work together, and inside make the difference. The UFE work side by side with professionals, but they don't replace them. The UFE are peer of users and family members and offer a model of successful treatment and give treatment compliance, participation of everybody, responsibility, more trust and hope. In this slide, I want to the general morning meeting with our UFE, Enzo and Maurizio, that is here today. The crisis area with the UFE Maurizio, the hospital ward, and the shared care pathway, awareness activities in the school, transferability of UFE and in some other foreign countries like China, France, Brazil, Germany, and Japan. We hope that tomorrow the Taiwanese this is our UFE that are together everywhere. Thank you for your attention. Here with me is Maurizio Capitanio. I think that I can't do anything in my life.
Poi mi piace dire che io sono sposato, ho una moglie e 3 figli. E grazie a mia moglie che mi sono avvicinato al centro salute mentale per mi curare.
And I have to say thank you to my wife, because she sent me to go to the mental hospital in Trento, and she helped me to go out to this experience.
Il parto col centro non è stato facile, avevo vergogna, molta paura e non sapevo cosa mi stava succedendo.
It wasn't easy. I feel me embarrassment and with a lot of shape, and before the we made your 30
So we trained volunteers to familiar with the Tai Chi exercise, and they teach the participant the Tai Chi exercise after every health education. And before, we can know the major problem of preventing falling is the environment. So we lead the community elderly to fix the anti-fall as tools in a house. In the result, there are 100 community elderly complete the basic information questionnaires. The results should indicate the knowledge, health belief, self-efficacy, was significantly increased after intervention. And in the age distribution in the three communities is 55 to 93 years old, and the average age is 71 years old to 72.4 years old. And all the participants is most of female. And where community ABC, the most of participants do not use worker, but the working flatness between the ordinary to the very smooth in community A is 82%, in community B is 100%, and in community C is only 64.3%. In the chronic disease, more than half of participants have chronic disease. And for experience, in community A, there are 25% participants have full experience in the last year, and 70 of these fear fall again. In community B, there are 40 participants have full experience last year, and 67% fear fall again. In the community C, there are 17 participants have full experience in the last year, and 80% fear fall again. And in the fall prevention knowledge, we can see that the fall prevention knowledge at pre and post test showed significant improvements. And the fall prevention beliefs is also showing the significant improvements. The safe efficacy is also showed significant improvement. Satisfied. And after Taiji exercise, there are many tests of physical function have significant improvement. For example, hand grip stress and hand drop stick reflection muscle test. So we can again proven that Taiji exercise is a training project.
And inside make the difference. The youth work side by side with professionals, but they don't replace them. The youth are peer of users and family members and offer a model of successful treatment and give treatment compliance, participation of everybody, responsibility, more trust and hope. In this slide, I want to the general morning meeting with our youth, Enzo and Maurizio, that is here today. The crisis area with the youth Maurizio. The hospital ward. And the shared care pathway. Awareness activities in the school. Transferability of youth and in some other foreign countries like China, France, Brazil, Germany, and Japan. We hope that tomorrow the Taiwanese this is our youth that are together everywhere. Thank you for your attention. Here with me is Maurizio Capitanio. I think that I can't do anything in my life.
Poi mi piace dire che io sono sposato, ho una moglie e 3 figli. È grazie a mia moglie che mi sono avvicinato al centro salute mentale per mi curare.
And I have to say thank you to my wife, because she sent me to go to the mental hospital in Trento, and she helped me to go out to this experience.
Il parte col centro non è stato facile, avevo vergogna, molta paura e e non sapevo cosa mi stava succedendo.
Easy. I feel me embarrassment and with a lot of shape and
before the practice, we major 30 kinds of physical function. So we trained volunteers to familiar with the Tai Chi exercise, and they teach the participant the Tai Chi exercise after every health education. And before, we can know the major problem of preventing falling is the environment. So we lead the community elderly to fix the anti-fall as tools in a house. In the result, there are 100 community elderly complete the basic information questionnaires. The results should indicate the knowledge, health belief, self-efficacy was significantly increased after intervention. And in the age distribution in the three communities is 55 to 93 years old, and the average age is 71 years old to 72.4 years old. And all the participants is most of female. And where community ABC, the most of participants do not use worker, but the working flatness between the ordinary to the very smooth in community A is 82%, in community B is 100%, and in community C is only 64.3%. In the chronic disease, more than half of participants have chronic disease. And for experience, in community A, there are 25% participants have full experience in the last year, and 70 of these fear fall again. In community B, there are 40 participants have full experience last year, and 67% fear fall again. In the community C, there are 17 participants have full experience in the last year, and 80% fear fall again. And in the fall prevention knowledge, we can see that the fall prevention knowledge at pre and post test showed significant improvements. And the fall prevention beliefs is also showing the significant improvements. The self-efficacy is also showed significant improvement. Satisfied. And after Tai Chi exercise, there are many tests of physical function have significant improvement. For example, hand grip stress and hand drop stick reflection muscle test. So we can again proven that Tai Chi exercise is a training project for prevention education program led by similar background volunteers. Is a better model to the community elderly populations in terms of knowledge improvement or courses for prevention education classes in the community. And thank you for your attention.
This very good presentation, and I think that due to the the rapidly aging population in Taiwan, the fall prevention in the elderly has gained more attention from all over the field. And but in the U.S. study, you should. I think that the U.S. line too have shown that the prevalence of fall is 20.5%, but the literature actually is the survey report is according to survey in year 2005. You must correct the second slide. Okay, I just remind you. It's 20.5%. The study, the survey is in 2005. You have pay attention, and I think to conduct the study in the street community, I wonder the two questions is first is there any mechanism to keep the study consistency across street community? You need to have some supplementary across street community. And the second is do you have any plan to further follow up of the elderly people? Actually, you have 18-week intervention, but sometimes, according to the foreign literature review, that the effectiveness of the fall prevention interventions decay with time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Sai.
对啊，可以再来一点没关系。对，不然小妹。这个活动是台湾目前6个家庭，在这个家庭international，这一块。
And we must have a smoke-free operation. We had a smoke-free operation campaign in Sweden, a very big one. And these three things together helped us to get money to start a smoke-free unit for surgery at our big clinic. Our smoke-free operation unit, it is today in Sweden, I think, among many countries, patient safety and patient's right is the focus. It's a very big focus. And smoke-free operation handles really about patient safety. It really handles about patient's right. Patient's right and patient safety. It's very big things in Sweden just now. But the smoke-free operation is not that. We are not there yet, but soon, very soon. Success factors for our smoke-free operation unit, of course, information to patients, information to the community, information to the organization. That we have evidence-based method. We have evidence-based method. We have competence. We have simple procedures. In that big hospital, I think it must be simple to send the patient to a cessation. So, smoke-free cessation unit. And it must be timing. That I will come back to timing. Timing handles also about deadline for smoke stop. That's very important to have a special deadline for smoke stop. Abstinence from smoking in connection with surgery. During the medical consultation, smoking patients will be informed of the importance of abstinence from smoking before surgery. It's really patient's right to know what complication how we can make the complications yeah. Help me reduce. Okay. They will be contacted by a smoking cessation nurse with an invitation. It's important, we heard that tomorrow, this morning. It handles also about an invitation. Not, you have a choice as a patient. But if you know the importance of the abstinence combined with surgery, I think most patients say, thank you, I would like to go there. But they got an invitation to a pre-operating program and an intensive smoking cessation program. And we have a very simple referral process. Gold standard program, we have heard about that. Evidence manual-based teaching, specialist advice, 6 visits, telephone, free nicotine replacement therapy. This is our first method. Before we started with ESP, gold standard program, and we had 172 patients, and 43 smoke-free, 29 dropped out, and 28 didn't stop smoking. With BSP, we had 100 patients, now we have 150. If you come to Gothenburg next year, you will see our result from many more patients. 57 are smoke-free after the standard program. I don't know how the results look like in Denmark. Is it so? Almost similar. Almost similar. And 40% dropped out and 29 didn't want to go. Yes? So I think, of course, a constant dialogue is very important for smoke-free operation. Successful health promotion is a long process based on a constant dialogue between people to gradually increase the willingness and motivation to make health promotion as a natural part of our daily life. And I think also
in this randomized clinical trials we have had the privilege of being supervisor for. Now it comes into a national program, which I also support so much as I can. I sit in the research group, the chair of the research group supporting this program. So it's really fantastic to see what they're doing, and also what Tim is doing is then making research of the follow-up results. So it all goes together, and that is very amazing in follow-up and then evaluating on the follow-up results. So great job. Congratulations on that. I'd like to hear.
So what you do to, with patients who say, no, I don't want to stop, and with those who drop out?
Operated, but we can't. Some of them we can't refuse operation. Of course, we try to have them in the program, but if they say no and they have to be operated, we'll have no. Yeah.
Maybe you
it's related to very big complications, especially spine operation and also other operations. But
do you postpone operations? Do you postpone?
About our new poster and some change of the organization. So our
Can you
啊，做我记你参与咧东西，啊，出去做出来的。
Bersama Prof. Edi ya. Yang kemarin nggak ketemu sama Prof. Edi. Pengajar. Janji saya kemarin udah saya punya.
证据推定，他们法官都是证据推定。看没有错，没有错，没有错。我这次才带走这单位。That's a dissemination channel. 后来之后，走后来讲，跟他们Excellent. Well, we will talk again. Okay, lovely.
But you can always invite.
No, but if we invite what is
这一个左右跳动。好，然后呢，强国往左，对，往左，向下因为天空超。Keep your balance. Keep your balance.
So in South Australia we've got pretty varied geography as well. We've got deserts and we've got beautiful bushland and absolutely extraordinary beaches. So our Aboriginal people live in a range of locations. Some still live traditional lifestyles, and that's in this sort of area up here. And others are in metropolitan area and cities. So Aboriginal people make up about 5.5% of the Australian population, but in South Australia where I live, there are about 2% of the population. And they're a very young population, and they have higher birth rates but lower life expectancy. So about 56% of the population is under 25. That's compared to 32% for non-Indigenous people, and about 3.5% are older than 65 compared to 12% of the non-Indigenous people. So it's quite a young population. So when I said previously that, you know, I have access to good things, mostly Aboriginal people don't. And it's probably one of the greatest shames in Australia that the lifespan of an Aboriginal male is 17 years less than that of a non-Indigenous male, and the gap for women's about 14 years. And that hasn't really changed significantly for several decades. There's been some small changes over the last couple of years because there has been a focus on closing that gap, but it's still a very wide gap. And generally what you'll find is that Aboriginal people have a poorer educational status, lower employment rates, inadequate housing, and poor health regardless of where they live compared to the non-Indigenous population. And colonisation has had a severe impact on the health and well-being of all Aboriginal people, and whether they're people who are now well educated and doing well in society, they will describe the harms that have been done by colonisation and the policy effects that white Australians have had. In the last decade, there's been a general deterioration of oral health across the whole population in Australia, in fact across the world, and we know that in Aboriginal communities that's much worse. Now there's a whole lot of reasons for that. Some of it's to do with an increase in consumption of sugary, sweet food. We've been drinking bottled water instead of the fluoridated water, and
sleep problems and trauma-related disorder and some personality problems. And this showed the difference among the different ADHD subtypes. And we do find if they diagnose with ADHD combined temperament, they have the obvious symptoms of inattention and hyperactivity impulsivity. And they can predict more than just inattentive type or maybe just control to have more persistent ADHD symptoms, have more conduct problem, oppositional defiant problem, and anti-morality, some delinquent behavior. The third question is, I would like to examine whether ADHD family support, functioning, and parenting style of both parents influence the above-mentioned outcome, whether they also have some main effect. And here you can see the parenting, no matter whether it comes from the mother or father, really have some influence on the school performance and academic performance. And here you can see the perceived family support will have the influence on the outcome of the anxiety disorder, depression, sleep, or some personality problems. So family and the parent also have the main effect on these outcomes. And this slide shows similar things. And here is the same, yeah. And they also can predict that at young adulthood, they have more persistent ADHD symptoms and some disrupted behavior. Finally, the two results here. So this is the outcome, and we can see there's the interaction between the ADHD and the family support and the family education on the outcome of any study, anxiety, depression, oppositional compulsive disorder, tics, ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder. And we find ADHD or stress for ADHD and parenting style. Reliability.
And then move on to the result and the findings. For these 210 questionnaires, 49% of the response were aged between, it's about the middle age between 31 to 50 years old. And 74% of the response were single and not married. It's quite a lot, more than half. And about half of the response were unemployed. And about 41% of response were low level of education. It's like they only finished their primary school. And 62% of the response have been using the mental health service for more than 5 years. And nearly half, is 45% of the response has been, they actually been hospitalized more than 3 times or more. So they've been in and out of the hospital quite a lot. And then also talk about the finding, because like I said before, the questionnaire is divided into 2 parts. I mean the main questions. The first part is about the general satisfaction and divided into the dimensions. The higher score of the satisfaction goes to the professional skill and behavior dimensions is quite high. And the lowest score of satisfaction is about the relative involvement dimension. So the treatment and their future plan is we only maybe just treat their symptom and give them medication. So they are not satisfied. And I actually analyzed with the individual items.
City Hospital Hopi Branch in Taiwan. Our message is the participants will recruit from the smoking cessation class in the outpatient clinic in Taipei City Hospital. Since January 2009 till December 2010, there were about 650 people in the smoking cessation clinic and 250 in the cessation class. In this study, we tried to randomize 130 samples from smoking cessation class and the smoking cessation clinic, respectively. After the cessation class and the clinical, the structural questionnaires were used to evaluate the effects after the intervention program. The questionnaires are including age, gender, smoking, tobacco consumption, and quick smoking frequency, nicotine addiction measurement, and the determinant of cessation. As for the intervention smoking cessation classes, the participants received 12-hour smoking cessation class, which including 4 hours tobacco-related knowledge program, 4 hours practicing the skill for cessation, and 4 hours exercise nutrition weight control, especially for our hospital. The unique program is a Chinese medicine, that's including Chinese herb and acupuncture in our class. After the smoking cessation class, the telephone consultation and assessments were provided by the community nurse at first, 3rd, 6th, and 12 months in this study. So here are our pictures about the smoking cessation and the nutrition class and the Chinese medicine, herb acupuncture provided by our doctor, and the carbon monoxide detection and some relaxing or some for elderly exercise. As for the smoking cessation clinical in our hospital, there were 7 smoking cessation clinical per week in the hospital. In the family medicine, doctor will provide the participants, the nurse will measure the carbon monoxide level and complete the questionnaire for patients. Here, the participants would dial the hotline which was funded by Bureau of Health Promotion if the patient needed. So we evaluated the respective effect in this study.
The average age in the soul, the cessation rate was significant associated with age, and smoking consumption according to the interval did not reach the significance.
About 28.5, and for the literature, you can see that Korea is a little bit higher because well, it's very high, and I think it's from the literature that Europe is still very high. The rate of nurse high intent to leave, and from the result of the multivariate longevity regression, factors associated with high intent to leave were as follows: stress, general work stress, workload, direct supervisor or leader, and inequality at work, and negative affective just maybe depressing, and if they have fetal stock, they leave due to discomfort from work, and with younger age, and if they were nurses or pharmacists. And the protective factors are as these, that if they expect a positive career advancement, they have a better sense of achievement at work, they feel satisfied about their pay, and this is satisfied on hospital concern for staffs. They feel honored as a member of the hospital, and they care about the future of the hospital. So to reduce turnover, what we learned from this study is that maybe we should provide a higher developmental support and reduce work stress by adequate staffing, proper training, greater communication, etc., and to improve staff's job satisfaction and to create a positive organizational atmosphere to strengthen staff's cohesion and to enhancing their occupational safety. And the HPH model, which emphasizes on promoting a healthier workplace through comprehensive approaches, may support the hospital managers in dealing with these issues of turnover. And staff turnover and burnout is a central concern of hospital managers in Taiwan as well as in other countries. So the analysis of this national survey provides us some evidence that the HPH initiative with staff as one of its key stakeholders.
Hi, sorry, my name is Wei Wen. Thanks for the presentation. I think it's really interesting. I think that you've got heaps of variables that you guys studied, and I'm just really wondering, you talk about intent to leave, but is that directly correlated or associated with actually people leaving?
For the literature review, because we do a cross-section survey, so we don't know if they are related to this actually. We don't have the data, but for the past,
and that's very necessary because it's very difficult to really study those who have left.
And especially because it's anonymous as well.
Because in our healthy workplace, there's one element that we should did regular survey on staff's health, everything. And then the measurements are very comprehensive. And this analysis, I think one thing very important is that in addition, workload, although it's a significant factor, there may be some other, to visualizing.
In the past 6 months, for not overestimate, we did not take into account those who did not see a doctor only because the symptom of illness was mild. As for the explanatory variables, we have gender, age, living arrangement, working status, personal income, and the self-rated health status. All these variables are categorized into binary variables. Also, we took into consideration some potential confounders, which are education level, Medicare region, chronic disease status, functional problems, and clinic utilization. Our analytical strategies, we used the contingent table to calculate prevalence of meet medical needs. Use the chi-square test to compare differences across categories. For adjustment of potential confounders, multivariable logistic regression was applied to explore the association of factors of unmet medical needs between two age groups. We stratified the analysis by age group, used the retirement age as a cut-off point, separate the models for respondents aged 20 to 64 and 65 years and above. Then estimate the multiple adjusted odds ratio of each explanatory variable. Now let's take a look at the results. If you remember, the data were collected from a national representative sample. The slide shows the distribution of sample just for show that we have enough sample in each categories. This is a figure of the prevalence of unmet medical needs in Taiwan. Overall, 8.9% of the respondents ever had unmet medical needs during the past 6 months. Significant difference. The second leading reason for those younger ones was unable to take time from work or housework. Disability were not high. Here is the result of multiple adjusted models. For respondents who had poor health, were more likely to have medical needs. For those aged 65 and above, the family status and the personal income. For discussion, let's see summary of the 64. Medical needs were more likely to happen among younger. Medical needs were more likely to.
I think a lot of people still didn't get it. Maybe they were too busy, they don't check regularly. And it was only open for 2 weeks because we wanted to see the response soon.
Yes, I just wonder, maybe I just care about, because the non-response, the people just to care about the humanitarian issues. So maybe he did not to answer you.
Right, but I think also for a lot of other surveys, it's not very high, and that's a shortcoming in our study design. But certainly, I think we cannot take into face that 20% of Tzu Chi employees are vegetarian. But the more important part is that we learn the reasons why they would choose or not choose this type of diet. So we will be able to provide some help to our employees in helping them learn about plant-based diet. And maybe through this process, we will be able to find a way to make some behavior change for health and also for the greener of the environment.
So have you any idea to solve the best?
I think the green ones were the ones that I feel we could provide help immediately, such as cooking class and better meal designing and counseling for employees that really need it. But there are also other issues that may need a longer term.
The vitamin is difficult to promote, but maybe you can persuade somebody to take more.
Not just about vegetarian diet from religious perspective, it's also from health, and we try to update our employees with the latest studies and evidence about some of the very best.
So your hospital have some nutritionist, specialist to educate, to monitor.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Paola Antonioni. I am a medical doctor. I come from Italy, Emilia-Romagna region, Ferrara University Hospital. I am director of hygiene and risk management department of my hospital.